I saved for years to buy my first home. For legal reasons, my parents convinced me to put it under their name. A year later, they gave my brother a wedding gift. No fighting. Walked away. They called nonstop 6 months later because I came home expecting a family dinner. Mom texted me earlier that day to come home from work. Not seen you lately. Join us for dinner. It had been a long week, but habit, obligation, and whatever was left of my former self that prioritized family over myself made me agree. I should have known something was wrong when I entered. There were balloons. Congratulations, Daniel and Sophia banner. My brother and his fiancée laughed with my parents at the dining table, glowing and holding hands. Holding my purse strap, I froze. What's this? My mom turned, beaming at me. Rachel. Perfect timing. I looked between them for an explanation. Dad stood, clapping Daniel's back. Big news. Daniel grinned, looking up at me like I should know what he was saying. My stomach dropped suddenly. My dad beamingly said we're giving them the house. Wedding present. The words shook me physically. I blinked. You've what? Mom giggled like I misheard them. It makes sense, sweetheart. Daniel and Sophia need a home to start their life together. I stared at them, trying to process what was happening. Daniel smiled wider. Crazy, huh? Sophia was shocked. Turning, he squeezed her hand. Instead of renting for a few years, we can start our marriage with a stable home. Stable. It took years to save for that house. I worked 2 jobs, skipped vacations, and lived cheaply to afford it. It was given away like nothing. Tightly swallowed. The house is mine. Dad sighed like I was difficult. Rachel, that's technically false. In our name. For legal reasons. They told me that when I bought it, it'll shield Rachel from liability. Just paperwork. None will change. Believed them. I trusted them. Now I was watching them give it away like I never existed. My fingers sank into my purse strap. I bought it, I said quietly. Dan rolled his eyes. Try not to be selfish, Ratch. My head turned to him. Selfish? He stole my home and I was selfish. Sophia, sitting beside him, tucked her hair behind her ear and smiled half-heartedly. Rachel, you're so independent. You'll manage. The excuse was always that, right? Independent me. Was strong. I'd figure it out. Daniel always needed more. More help. More help. More of everything I worked twice as hard for. I regarded my parents. You think this is fair? Same placating smile from Mom. This is best for the family. Our family not. Is. My lips pressed together as I breathed slowly. I could fight. Could yell. What's the point? They owned the home. They had full legal permission. It was obvious they had decided. I nodded once. Swallowed my words and left. I didn't pack. I didn't enter my room. Just turned around, went outside and left it. Give it to them. Allow them to drown in their choices. I knew they would regret it. It was unknown to them. Not looking back. I started my car and drove away, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles hurt. I didn't cry. No screaming. I didn't think too much because I might have demanded they show me how much they took. I knew them. It wouldn't matter. I focused on the road, forcing myself to breathe, and made the only decision I could. I had to figure things out myself. I'd done that before. I found a short-term rental that night. A tiny 1-bedroom apartment with little room to move. It was mine. The next day, I paid the deposit and first month's rent with my last savings. That was my new home. Not my home worked for. Not my earned home. A place to sleep. A place where my belongings were safe. After that, I worked hard. I worked extra shifts and volunteered for new projects. Wanting to make it, I climbed the corporate ladder faster than ever. Unrelated to them. It paid off. 3 months later, I was promoted. A promotion to a new position. Comfortable. I finally didn't have to stretch my paycheck to make ends meet. I didn't pay others' bills. Every dollar I made was mine. And I thrived. My parents and Daniel were silent. They didn't call. Nothing was texted. Do not check in. Not to check on me. It felt like I never existed. Should have been okay. I told myself it was fine. However, little things kept coming to mind. I saw your mom the other day, a coworker said. She looked slightly off. A distant relative asked me on Facebook, "Is your family okay? Your dad looked tense when I saw him last." First, I ignored it. They got what they wanted. Their plan was ideal. Photos of their new life. Their newly furnished home. Posts of gratitude. They were lucky to have supportive parents. Suddenly nothing. Silence for weeks. The last photo was almost a month old. And then I saw new Daniel and Sophia restaurant photo. My stomach dropped at the caption. Crazy how fast things change. Details were lacking. No explanation. Simply those ominous words. I searched the comments for clues. Daniel's friend said, "Damn man. Hope all goes well. You guys are strong. You'll recover." Rebound from what? My heart was racing as I put my phone down. Something was off. However, I wouldn't ask. They excluded me. They made me feel irrelevant. Let them handle it. 1 week later, my mom called. I watched her name flash on my phone as it rang. I remained silent. She called again an hour later. Then again. I sent everyone to voicemail. My dad tried the next morning. Then Daniel. They tried to reach me one by one. Still, I ignored them. I finally got a text that stopped me. From Daniel. "Daniel, I know you're mad, but we must talk. It matters." I read it twice, hovering over the screen. Daniel never initiated contact. Too proud and entitled to admit need. It meant something was seriously wrong. I inhaled and typed my response. "Me why?" A few minutes passed before a response. "Daniel, return home. Please." Looked at those words. Come home. Like I could return home. Like they didn't steal it. I didn't reply. However, for the first time since leaving, I felt their perfect plan was crumbling. What awaited me on the other side was unknown. I delayed visiting them. I kept quiet after Daniel's text, after the calls kept coming, and after my mother left me voicemail after voicemail in her soft, pleading tone. They ignored me for 6 months. I was suddenly their first thought. I never thought it was about making things right. Needed something. I wouldn't help them. After 3 more days of constant messages, I became curious. I returned home by car. I needed to figure out what went wrong, not because I missed it or wanted to talk. When I pulled into the driveway, I knew it was bad. The always-kept lawn was overgrown and patchy. The curtains were closed, making the room look lifeless. And the biggest sign? The front door has a bright orange foreclosure notice. I barely had time to think before my mother rushed out through the door. Rachel. Her appearance changed. Her hair was messy, her clothes were wrinkled, and she had dark circles under her eyes from not sleeping. I think she grabbed my arm thinking I was running. "Sweetheart, we were about to call again. Good thing you're here." I backed off. "What's happening?" She hesitated, but my dad stepped outside holding his forehead like he had the worst headache ever before she could respond. "We need your help," he muttered. I crossed arms. "With what?" My mom looked at my dad, then at Daniel, who had just appeared in the doorway behind them, arms crossed, looking annoyed like this was inconvenient. Like I was the issue. Narrowing my eyes. "Give an explanation." My mother sighed, wringing hands. "Yes, Rachel, the mortgage." I fixated on her. "The bank threatens foreclosure," she said. "Our payments are late." I took in the words slowly. Then I laughed hollowly. "Never missed a payment," I said. Dad looked away. I faced Daniel. "Are you far behind?" Jaw tightened. "Not my fault." Raised eyebrow. "Really? You lived here last time I checked." Clenched fists. "We fell behind. The bank overreacts." Arms folded. "How far behind, Daniel?" Long silence. Mom cleared her throat. 5 months. My stomach sank. 5 months. That wasn't lagging. That was 1 step from losing the house. I exhaled slowly, assembling. Daniel gambled away mortgage payments. I knew about his habit for years. It began with sports betting and poker with friends. Then it grew. Riskier. I always assumed our parents covered him, but now he has a house? He burned everything. Now they scrambled. My mom urgently requested your assistance. Tilted my head. "And why would I?" She blinks. "Rachel, this is your home." I laughed briefly, without humor. "Quite funny." You said I could find another place 6 months ago. Dad sighed like I was difficult. It was a mistake. The bank will take the house, so we just need. I interrupt, you need me. Silence. No one argued. We all knew it was true. I wasn't popular. I wasn't the child they'd always excused. However, I was responsible. He always fixed things. They thought I'd clean up their mess again. I checked the door foreclosure notice. If I left now, the bank would take the house in weeks. This house was supposed to be mine. Maybe I could make that happen again. I regarded Daniel. You owe how much? He slumped in relief. Need just over $18,000. I nodded, thinking. That was lots. I could afford it with my promotion, savings, and plan. But not for them. Not free. All fell silent. I inhaled slowly to calm my voice. If I pay off your debt, I own this house. Mom blinked. What? You will officially sell it to me, I said. At low cost. A fraction of its value. A shock shook them. The angry Daniel twisted his face. Trying to steal my house? Tilted my head. Your home. One you couldn't afford. His mouth opened, but my dad spoke first. That's unfair. Rachel. I faced him. I paid for this house, but you gave it away like a toy. He pressed his lips and I knew. I cornered them. They had no choice. The bank was days from taking the house. They were broke, without options or backup. I alone could save them. Mom's face blanched. You'd do this? Held her gaze. Yes. Long silence. Finally, my dad exhaled and rubbed his forehead. Fine. He muttered. Sign the papers. I nodded, ignoring my racing heart. I won. I hadn't finished. I had one last move. After everything was official, they'd regret taking my house. I didn't celebrate until all papers were signed. Not until my name was on the deed. Not until all legal documents were processed, notarized, and finalized. I distrusted them. I couldn't. Because I was responsible, helpful, and figured things out for years. They used that against me. So I eliminated loopholes. Unambiguous promises. No last-minute changes. Finally, 2 weeks later, I owned the house again. My dining table seat was across from them. The table where they told me to move. Same table where they gave Daniel everything I worked for. A folded letter was slid to him. Daniel frowned, taking it. The what? My chair reclined. Eviction notice for 1 month. Room went quiet. Then Daniel laughed, shaking his head. You're kidding. Tilted my head. Do I look joking? His grin faded as he skimmed the letter. Don't be serious. Helping us was your promise. I grinned. And I did. I settled your debt. I stopped the bank from taking the house. Done. He gulped. We assumed. Would I keep Daniel and Sophia? Forever. Rent-free. I laughed briefly, without humor. No. Not at all. Sophia finally spoke up after being quiet. She panicked with a sharp voice. Rachel, where should we go? Raised eyebrow. No idea. Perhaps your generous in-laws will house you. I looked at my parents. Since Daniel deserved the house more than me, you'll probably let him in. Dad's face grew dark. This is low, Rachel. I looked at him. No. You took my house cheaply. Just correcting a mistake. Daniel sent me angry texts about how I was ruining his life. My parents begged me not to punish them all for a misunderstanding. I didn't respond. Not once. I had done enough for them. On their last day of eviction, I drove back to see if they were gone. Moving boxes lined the driveway when I arrived. Sophia wiped away tears as Daniel and Sophia argued by their car. And my parents. They assisted with loading. Now they had no choice. Daniel and Sophia were moving in. My voice lightened as I opened my window. Fully packed. Angered, Daniel turned red. Do you realize you're a piece of work? I grinned. You're bad tenants. I guess we're both learning today. My mother pleaded with me. Rachel, please. Avoid this. I stared at her blankly. Remember your promise to find me another place? Her inhale was sharp. I parked and walked to the porch. The porch I owned again. You chose. I crossed my arms. Now live with it. Sophia muttered as she carried her last suitcase to the car. Daniel stood there glaring at me like he wanted to punch a hole in the wall. There was nothing he could do. They went. And I stayed. I finally entered my house and closed the door. Nobody could take this from me.